Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very well known and respected coach from Rochester, New York, USA, Coach Jim Johnson. Jim, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ashutosh. I'm looking forward to this. Should be
Thank you.
fun.
Thank you. Jim is a retired Hall of Fame high school basketball coach. He's a speaker and an author. He has also appeared in Oprah Winfrey, Jim Rome, and many other prestigious TV shows. So, Jim, let's start with the first question. Tell me about your journey and what inspired you to become a basketball coach in the first place.
Yeah, well, I was the oldest of six children, and I grew up in a very sports-minded family because my father was a physical ed teacher and a coach. And what really spurred me on in basketball is he became the basketball coach at the high school that I was going to when I got into middle school. And I loved all sports, but basketball became my number one love. And my
Mm,
dream was to play for my dad, which I was able to do for 3 years.
mm,
Although I kid him because he left to go into administration, so none of my brothers got the privilege to play for him. But he really inspired me. He was a great role model for me. And that's, of course, as a young kid, I wanted to be a professional basketball player. But as I got older, I realized that dream, well, maybe it was a little bit too big.
mm.
Although I try to help people accomplish their big goals.
Oh my.
But I really love basketball, so I wanted to stay in. And I thought one of the best ways I could do that was to use my energy and enthusiasm and try to gain as much knowledge to pass it on with being a teacher and a high
So,
school basketball coach.
thank you. And can you recall a pivotal moment in your career when you realized the power of your dreams, your own or someone else's?
Yeah, so the interesting about just to give a quick context, I got after a very slow start in coaching, I got fired from my first varsity job, so it didn't
Hmm.
go start very well. But fortunately, I got a couple more positions, and was coaching in my hometown at a high school, and we started to do quite well. But I was kind of got to known as the coach that couldn't win the big one because we win a lot of the games in the regular season and couldn't win in the postseason. And that went on for about 10 consecutive years where we had winning seasons. Well, what changed my perspective is a young man come into our program. His name was Jason McElwain. The world knows him as J-Mac.
Hmm.
And he was our team manager for 3 years. And he just taught me a lot of about perspective in life.
Hmm.
And Jason just grew on me. And I shared a promise with him because of his loyalty and commitment to his program his senior year, is even though he wasn't going to be on the team, he was going to be our team manager for third year, but I was going to give him a gift. And the gift
Hmm.
was for our final home game where we honor the seniors. I was going to put him in uniform so he could go with the rest of the seniors and
Hmm.
hopefully get him in the game. And we could talk a little bit more about the game, but
Yeah.
that changed my perspective on life greatly. And I think it just made me a better person and a better
Hmm.
leader.
Hmm. But therefore, a follow-up question for you, Jim, is what makes a great coach?
So what I believe makes a great coach is the first thing is that I teach leaders, I do a lot of leadership
Yeah.
presentations, is the first person you got to lead is yourself. So I
Hmm.
really encourage leaders to have their own personal mission statement. For example, and I teach this in some of my presentations, my mission statement is to be an outstanding role model that makes a positive difference in the world by helping others make your dreams come true.
Hmm.
And when you understand that why do you get out of bed every day? That's a good start. Then secondly is really get creating a vision of where you want to take a group of people.
Hmm.
And then I call it the two C's. And being a great leader, I think you got to show that you care about your people. But I believe you got to have a situation like our basketball program. We care deeply about our players, but it was also very challenging because we have very high standards.
Yeah.
So when you can combine those two C's of caring and challenging, I think that really creates a great leader.
What a great response. And along with a great leader, you also need coaches or players who have great character. And therefore, I want to ask you, how do you define character and why is it so essential in sports and in life?
Well, I think, because one of my leadership keys is lead by example. So we
Mm,
used to teach our players, and this again starts with me,
mm,
is you are always on stage. So
mm,
defining character for me is, are you doing the things that you value and believe in when no one's watching?
mhm,
Okay, like if you say you want to be a great model and take care of yourself, but
mm,
then you're eating ho-hos and Cheetos every day and you're not taking care of yourself,
mm,
you're not living what you're sharing. So aligning your words and actions, which is leaders have to build trust.
mm,
So that's where it's all starts is that, what you talk about, are you also living? If we talk about we're going to add value to people, then, you got to do the little things too. Like I walk into a locker room and if I see a piece of trash, well, I didn't put the trash there, but I'm trying to share with our philosophy is that everything we touch, we're going to make better.
yeah.
And so you got to live the message. I think that's the bottom line. And that
Mm,
means is, are you doing the right things when no one's watching?
very interesting. How do you think sports uniquely contributes to personal transformation and the pursuit of life goals?
Well, I think the great thing about sports is there are so many lessons that are so transferable in life.
Mm,
And it starts with, in my case, although the individual sports, you still have some kind of team per se.
mm,
But, for team sports, the fact that you're teaching people how they can work together, which is the same thing in working with a business, and same thing in any type of organization. You're going to need to work with people and understand how to work with people, and then being able to establish team goals that everybody's going for,
mhm,
but as the leader, also understanding what their individual goals and how you can sync those
mm,
so that you align those individual and team goals so everybody's uh, rowing the boat in the same direction. Because often, if you don't, as a leader, know that their individual goals are maybe completely different than the team goals, and then the boat is not going to row in the right direction.
mm,
So I think it's really important that goal setting is important in almost anything in life,
yeah.
but getting clarity. And then the other thing is, I think having a mission bigger than, in my case, winning games
Mm,
or in a business making profit, although those are both important. But I think it's got to be bigger than that. For example,
mm,
our mission for our basketball program was to create winners on and off the court. And as the leader, I had to define what does it take to be a winner on the court. Winning on the scoreboard is part of that, but being a
yeah.
great teammate
Mm,
off the court is being a great citizen, being an excellent student. Those are things we were trying to teach, and I think that's what's so great about sport is you can teach so
great
many life
response.
lessons.
Great response. Jim, you briefly mentioned, referred to James McElwain a few minutes ago. Tell me a little bit about what led to your allowing James McElwain to uh, play in that 2006 game, and what lessons about dreams, inclusion, and leadership did you take away?
Yeah, so to give everybody quick context, Jason tried out for our basketball program as a 10th grader for our junior varsity. I was the varsity coach. And he was very small in stature. He was like 5'6", 100 pounds as a sophomore. And he's on the autism spectrum. And he also is learning disabled. But my JV coach loved his passion and how much he loved his teammates. So he offered him the team manager's job. And I started to get to know him because in our situation, the junior varsity and varsity played back to back.
Mm,
But then what really impressed me about Jason is after his sophomore year, he came to all our off-season workouts, and I was picking him up at his house. We both love basketball, so we were always talking. So he tries out for the team as a junior. He doesn't make it, but I ask him to serve as the team manager for the varsity, and he embraces that. And then he comes back as senior, and I had never had a player try out 3 years in a row without ever making it. But he was so loyal and committed. When I told him he wasn't quite good enough to team as a senior, he was really disappointed. But I
mm,
told him I want to give him a gift and this is a great lesson for everybody. When you commit and people see you're loyal to something, they want to usually help you out. And I
yeah.
said to Jason, the what I want to do for your loyalty and commitment is for our final home game where we honor the seniors, I'm going to give you a uniform and hopefully get you in the game. So
Mm,
I think that was the real lesson is the ability to commit. And his role as team manager, he was adding value every day because he was willing to give extra to help the team,
yeah.
and he cared so much about the team. And then he did get into a game. We can talk about that briefly if you want. That
Please do. Please tell
changed.
us.
So, well, with about 4 minutes to go in that final home game, I put Jason in. The
Mm,
place exploded. In fact, I was very touched because one of our parents, unbeknownst to me, made all these pictures of Jason's face and gave them to our
mm,
student body. And
mm,
they showed that when he came on the floor for the first time. And I got so overwhelmed, I started as I could cry and sit down. Well, Jason gets in his first game. And his first shot is a three-pointer. The whole stand stands up and he misses by like 6 feet. It's an air ball in the basketball terminology. And the
mm,
crowd kind of groans. And I kid people, I'm a person of faith. So I started to pray to God, even though you're not supposed to pray in the public schools. But I was praying. Well, the second shot, he misses, but it hits the rim. So I'm like, all right, we're starting to get closer. God's
mm,
listening.
mm.
Then the third possession, he makes a three and the
Wow.
place explodes. And I'm thinking to myself, God must be a basketball fan. Not only has
Mm.
Jason scored, he's got a
Yes.
three-pointer, but it
Yes.
doesn't stop there.
Mm,
He starts making shot after shot. And I want to share one quick thing for
mm,
your listeners. Probably they've heard of the late Kobe Bryant.
mhm,
And Jason's idol was the late Kobe Bryant.
mm,
And 6 months after that game, Jason's at the ESPY Award. He's up for the greatest sports moment of the year. That's the ESPN Awards. And one of the other finalists is his idol, Kobe. Kobe had scored
wow.
81 points for the
Mm,
Lakers that year.
mm,
So
mm,
he meets his idol and he beats him out for the ESPY. Well, how does he do that? Well, he
mm,
didn't just make a couple shots. He made a number. In fact, he made a shot at the buzzer, and it looked like the movie Rudy. The whole crowd came out of the stands, ran to the floor. Our players put him up on our shoulders, and the announcer comes on and says, "The leading scorer for Greece Athena tonight, J-Mac with 20 points, including six three-pointers." And
wow.
it ended up exploding to be a global story all over the world. And I'll give you one thing that really touched my heart. I
Mm,
had never asked the four players
mm,
to pass Jason the ball, but out of their own hearts, what I call the essence of teamwork, when you
mm,
shine the light on someone else on your team, they
mm.
pass the ball to them every possession. And
Wow.
that's when you really know that you have a team that cares about each other.
Amazing. What a powerful story, Jim. Thank you for
Yeah,
sharing this.
my pleasure.
Moving on, what does realizing your dreams mean to you today?
Well, what it really encouraged me when I went through, I wrote a book about it called A Coach and a Miracle,
Hmm.
is that what I really try to teach people and something I've learned is that, not every dream is going to come true. As I mentioned earlier, I wanted to
Yeah.
play in the NBA. That didn't happen. But what I do teach people and something I've really learned is that you can do a lot more than you think you can.
Hmm.
And really getting the proper mindset, telling yourself the right things, and then really, writing your goals down. And then what are the intentions? What are you going to do each day to
Hmm.
help those goals? Because when you start to build good habits and
Hmm.
you're consistent
Hmm.
day in and day out,
Yeah.
you may not reach every dream, but the one thing I guarantee people is you'll do a lot more than you think you can.
Hmm. Amazing. What do you believe are some of the common barriers people face when trying to achieve their dreams?
So I think the first thing is belief. In fact, my one of my presentations called "Dreams Really Do Come True,"
Hmm.
because a lot of almost everybody has some type of big dream.
Hmm.
But I think the first barrier is they don't believe it can come true. So
Hmm.
we have to break through that, and that's a mindset. Whether it's visualization, which we used to teach our players. In fact, one of our players, he got fouled late in the game and he made three foul shots to tie the game. We ended up winning in overtime. And I'll
Hmm.
never forget. the reporter asking, the young man's name was Anthony. Anthony, what were you thinking about making those three shots? He says, I've gone through so many visualizations of seeing me make it. I knew I could do it. So
Mm,
that's where it starts, the mindset. Number two is getting clarity of what your big dream is.
mm,
And then writing it down. We teach our players, and now I teach people all over the country. When you think it, ink it. Write it down so you're having clarity. In fact, I encourage people to have a goals journal, write out your goals.
mhm,
And then the next part is, what are your action steps? What are
mm,
you going to consistently do? One that a lot of people struggle with is taking care of their health. So, it could be as simple as, okay, I want to lose 20 pounds
mhm,
in the next 3 months. Well, I got to start. One action step simply could be, I'm going to start doing a 30-minute walk.
mm,
So I think that's the really thing. And then you got to do it. And one thing is, when people, if you miss a day, one of the other rules I started to incorporate and I teach people is,
mm,
it's important enough, never miss 2 days in a row. So
mm.
if there's a day you don't go for a walk, make sure the next day you get right
Yep.
back on the
Mm,
course.
mm. Amazing. Never miss 2 days in a row. So simple and yet so important.
Yeah.
Jim, what role does self-belief play in realizing one's dream, and how can this be nurtured?
So self-belief is so hugely important. So what I teach people is that I encourage people to have a personal growth plan. And that's being intentional, because what you feed your mind consistently, I strongly believe, is either going to help you or hinder your progress. So
Mm,
you got to be the person that captures those ideas and making sure that you're putting the right ideas. So I encourage people, read good books,
mm,
listen to audio programs, listen to podcasts like your great podcast, get information. And then one of the things I encourage is capture them. Like, I have what I call an idea journal. So I listen to a lot of podcasts, I read a lot. So if I see a good idea, I write it down, I put
mm,
it in my idea journal, and then I share a lot of those ideas
mm.
on my social media, because I want to help others.
Yeah.
So, and it's a good way, because, I always say, to be a better learner, teach it to somebody, because you're learning it twice. So I think
Mm,
those are things. To build that mindset, you got to be really cognizant and
mm.
consistent in feeding your mind with good material.
Amazing. Do you see yourself more as a coach, a mentor, or a storyteller today?
Well, I would say, because I'm more of a speaker than anything else, that I'm
Mhm.
more of a storyteller, although I still do some mentoring and I still do some coaching. But
Mm,
I would say, because speaking is what I do the most of, and I also have a podcast called the Limitless Leadership Lounge, where we help young and emerging leaders.
mm,
So telling stories is something that I enjoy, and I think it's a very powerful. In fact, I always kid people, if you want to be a good speaker, you got to be a good storyteller. I say leaders got to be the CST, the chief storyteller. And we can learn from, if you believe in Jesus Christ, that, what he was known as the master storyteller.
mm,
And people remember stories. So
Amazing. What has it been like to speak on major platforms like Oprah or ESPN? Did those platforms help you to amplify your core message?
it certainly did. And, those are things that certainly at the beginning was pretty overwhelming and pressure. But what I've learned, because I speak all over the country, and I'm hoping to speak all over the world. I've only done a couple countries right now, but is that one of the things is when I changed the mindset, I learned this from another speaker, is that, what? Your message
Mm,
is helping others.
mm,
So if you go into the mindset that, like I just spoke a few weeks ago to a group of 800 people, but a
mm.
month ago I spoke to 50 people. But it doesn't matter whether it's 50, 800, or 5,000.
Yeah.
Your mindset is coming in is be prepared. So I practice my presentation, I write it down, I do a lot of that. But the idea is, I'm here to serve these people. And I
Mm,
think when you get that mindset, that really helps you overcome the nervousness
mm,
of being on a big
mm.
stage.
Great response. Jim, I have time for two more questions.
Sure.
How can a leader or a coach cultivate a team environment that supports the dreams of every individual?
That's always a challenge, but one of the things I teach is number one, that you got to have clarity of the direction you're taking. So starting with the mission of the organization and then getting clarity. And so it was really important that after we chose our team, came over to my house
Hmm.
and we had lunch together and we just set our team goals together. So everybody was really clear and then we wrote them out. Everybody got a copy of them. And then the second thing is, I think is hugely important as a leader, is I then met with every player and we talked about their individual goals.
Mm.
And then as the leader, I was helping them synchronize their role on their team and also their goals and how we could align those with the team goals because that's where we want to keep the boat rowing in the same direction. So I think it's really important as a leader that you have clarity of where you're trying to take the team, but also building relationships so you're getting to know each person so
Mm.
you know what their motivators and their individual goals and how you can align it so
Mm.
that we keep the ship going in the right direction.
Well said. Great response. And my last question for you, Jim. For someone who's viewing our or listening to our conversation and someone who feels stuck or unsure about their dream, what would you say to encourage them?
Well, I love that you keep feeding your mind.
Mm.
Like I'm really big on reading biographies because what you get is people that have done wonderful things, but
Mm.
they've all overcome great obstacles.
Mm.
And so you can learn from others, be inspired by others, and then you got to grab your own dream
Mm.
and go for it. Take action on it. Figure out different things. Get coaching so learn from people that are done the things that you want to do, and then keep going and keep tinkering and
Mm.
stay with it. But the key step is what I call the essence of perseverance.
Mm.
And that is that never give up mindset that you're going to do it no matter what. And when you keep that mindset, it's amazing because, I refer back when I lost my first varsity position, I was devastated and
Mm.
I thought the world had stopped. But, I had a good support group, my family and friends, and they said, Jim, you're better than this. We know you can
Yeah.
do it. And I got up and, but the other thing is that's why you got to keep growing and
Mm.
you got to keep learning and be the best you can be each
Mm.
day. And when you do that, it's amazing. As I said, it doesn't guarantee, but boy, it gives you, because I always say that life accumulates. So
Mm.
what you do today
Mm.
is either going to help or enhance tomorrow. So do those positive things consistently. And you know what? More times than not, the law of averages will say that'll lead to great things for you.
Mm. Wow. And on that note, and your amazing last few words, be the best you can be. Thank you, Jim, for speaking to me about your own incredible journey. Thank you for sharing Jason's story. Um, a lot of Jason's story would have echoed, of course, in the United States, but now through our conversation, people around the world will hear this conversation. Thank you for your very simple message, which is live the message. You have such incredible short pieces of wisdom in our entire conversation, and I think all our viewers and listeners will benefit a lot. Thank you for speaking to me, and good luck to you.
Oh, thank you very much. It was great to be with you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the brand called You Videocast and Podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the brand called You.